Yo, what's up, Ben? And anybody else who might see this video. I want to talk a little bit about the Manny Pacquiao Keith Thurman fight. Yeah, I'm talking about my prediction for the fight. I know my friend Ben thinks that Thurman's gonna win. He thinks he's gonna pretty much dominate the fight. And yeah, so let me get into why I think Pacquiao's gonna win this fight. All right, I respect Keith Thurman for one. I'm not saying Keith Thurman's overrated. I'm not saying Keith Thurman's not a very good, borderline great fighter. He's had a good run, but he's been slowing down over the last few years pretty badly. Let's go back to the Collazo fight because before the Collazo fight, Thurman had a few little rough patches, but for the most part, he's dominated everybody he's fought. Going back to the Collazo fight, hurt pretty bad to the body in that fight. I believe the Diego Chavez fight, he was also hurt to the body, but Chavez was a big puncher. He was undefeated, so, that was a good fight. That was a war. But going back to the Collazo fight, Collazo already shop worn, already older, hurt him to the body. I believe it was either the third or the fifth round. Hurt him pretty good. Going into the Sean Porter fight, I felt like Sean Porter won the fight. It was close. It could have went either way. Porter wasn't robbed or anything, but clearly Thurman did not dominate that fight. I question whether Thurman won that fight. I thought he was lucky to get that decision. And, throughout Thurman's career, you've had little injuries here and there, little nagging injuries here and there. You've had, shoulders. You've had just a bunch of injuries. It just seems like, it's adding up. Then he has the fight with Danny Garcia, right? And Garcia, very good fighter. So is Porter, championship level fighters. The Garcia fight, man, it was a while ago. My memory's not as fresh of the fight. I believe I thought Thurman maybe edged the fight. But again, very close competitive fight. Garcia definitely gave him problems. A lot of people thought Garcia won that fight. I remember, I don't know why I gave it to Thurman. I thought Garcia maybe just started too slow in the fight. But then, Thurman has the long layoff, right? And, yeah, again, injuries. I mean, he's not old, but he seems chronologically older than he is. Like, when you look at Thurman's age, hold on. Let me see how old he is real quick just to make sure. All right, so Keith Thurman is, I'm guessing, 31, 32, 30. All right, so he's 30. I thought he was actually a little bit, for 30, it seems almost like his time has almost passed a little bit. Like you look at Errol Spence, you look at Terrence Crawford. Crawford's actually older than that, but these guys seem like they're more in peak form, while Thurman seems like he's more on the way down than the way up, and even sustaining. But anyway, he comes back. Let's see. Let me just check here real quick. So he had a pretty long layoff, 10 months between Porter and Garcia. Then almost 2 years between Danny Garcia and Josecito Lopez, if you want to say it. All right, and he looked like shit in that fight. Nobody can dispute that. Nobody can say any different. Now, granted, ring rust, but, it was a majority decision. I thought that was too close. I thought Thurman clearly won the fight, but he looked like shit in that fight. And I think this is a great fight for Pacquiao. Great timing for Pacquiao to take this fight. You're going to, he's fighting an undefeated champion who, Keith Thurman really is the lineal welterweight champion right now. If you count Mayweather retiring, Thurman is, the guy that's been at welterweight for a long time now. Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford may be better, but Thurman is the legit, lineal type champion in my mind. So, and then, we'll look at Pacquiao. He really hasn't been in trouble at all in a fight since, the Marquez knockout, which obviously was brutal and devastating. But we both thought he did better than most people did against Mayweather. I know we both scored it a draw. But, the furthest away in points in my mind you could have that fight was 116, 112 Floyd. Given everything to Pacquiao, I believe you could have a draw. Regardless, he gave a good account of himself. I thought he beat Bradley, obviously, the first fight. Dominated Bradley the second fight. I thought, obviously the Jeff Horn fight was a joke. He won that fight clearly. And then I think really that loss, or, that bad decision, really kind of reinvigorated what was left of Manny Pacquiao. He was talking about retiring. Even after the Horn fight, he just didn't really seem like his heart was in that fight. I mean, what was he doing fighting Jeff Horn anyway? I remember, when I saw Jeff Horn fight before he fought Pacquiao, I'm like, really? Why is Pacquiao even going to fight this bum? Especially, I don't know, It's a stupid fight for him to even take in the first place. Then to get robbed like he did, I think, coming back from that, though, the Matisse fight, vintage Pacquiao. And okay, Matisse, his heart really wasn't in boxing at the time, even though he was coming off a good win and had a belt, so to speak. I don't give Pacquiao as much credit for that win as others, but it was a great performance. And, yeah, so, and then my mind is messed up right now. Let me see, who else did Pacquiao fight after Matisse, real quick. Oh, yeah, Broner. Can't forget about Broner. Anyway, Broner, yeah, he won the fight clearly. He dominated Broner, who's a younger fighter, who's a good fighter. Broner's talented. I mean, he's been beat a lot now, but it was a good fight for Pacquiao. He won the fight clearly. He dominated Broner. Yeah, probably easier than anybody who's ever fought Broner, who's beat him. I mean, Porter beat him pretty easy, but he did get knocked down in the 12th. Pacquiao was never in any danger in the fight. Fight went kind of how we thought it would. He outworked him, won a decision. And coming into this fight, so here's what I see happening. I see Thurman being in better shape than the Lopez fight, being sharper than the Lopez fight. But I just see Manny as being quicker. I see Manny as being more of the power puncher, more of he's the speedier power puncher. I can see Thurman trying to box, staying away. But Pacquiao's harder to hit than people think. He really don't get hit clean that much. His defense is underrated. Seeing Pacquiao just kind of pop shotting him a little bit early, and as the rounds go on, I see it being pretty close and competitive through 5 or 6 rounds. But again, I think Thurman's he has a lot of wear and tear on what is only a 30-year-old body. I see Pacquiao, despite being 40 plus, wearing Thurman down and potentially stopping him late in the fight, maybe even on a body shot. Just because Thurman in his career has been hurt multiple times to the body. And even though I wouldn't consider Pacquiao to be a great body puncher, I know that they're going to be working on that for this fight. And I think the way Thurman will fight will leave him susceptible to some body shots in this fight from Pacquiao, who will have a distinctive speed advantage. And I think the safe bet, though, is to say Pacquiao by decision in my mind. But I'm not going more to stoppage. I just wouldn't be surprised if it happened. But I expect Pacquiao to, I expect it to be like 4-2, 3-3 after 6, and then really the late stretch of the fight, I expect Pacquiao to be able to open it up a little bit and win a decision like 117, 111, 116, 112. You might get a 115, 113 thrown in there, but I do expect a clear victory for Pacquiao in this fight. And I know a couple years ago we were like, oh, we just hope Manny Pacquiao retires, And I still don't want to see him fight Errol Spence because I think that's just a bad matchup. And I don't really want to see him fight Terrence Crawford either because, again, those guys right now are just killers right now in their prime. And I just don't put Thurman in that class of fighter, even though I would say he's the lineal welterweight champion because he's been there so long. I think Spence would knock out Thurman in 5 or 6 rounds. I think Crawford would dominate Thurman from round 1 to 12 pretty much. So I think even though Thurman's been around for a while and he's undefeated, I just don't put him in the level of those guys. And perfect fight for Pacquiao at this point in his career. Even you said that you think this would be the best win of his whole career. I'm not going to go that far because I think Thurman's slipping a little bit more. And I think that'll be apparent to you after you see this fight Saturday. I think you'll be like, yeah, Thurman wasn't the same fighter he was a few years ago. Because Thurman really hasn't had an impressive performance since 2014. It's been a while. And Pacquiao just looks better to me right now. And yeah, so hey, that's my prediction for the fight. Enjoy it, man.